to anybody who is here. We are the Minnesota Spirit Hunters, and we're here to just communicate. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Minnesota SpiritCast. Hey, Brandon, how's it going?
Going all right. How about you?
Not too bad. So I'm your host, Marcus. This is my co-host, Brandon, right over here. We have a good show for you guys. A guest who has never been on here before, and the investigation style and the insight and everything from this team is absolutely amazing. So we're not going to keep you guys waiting at all. Please welcome Hero and Sean Quinn of Unearthing The Supernatural. Hey, guys.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. So, hope you guys are doing well, staying warm. And, well, you know, we already talked about your temperature. Ours, so, yeah, that's a big difference there. So, welcome to the show, everybody. And you guys are Unearthing the Supernatural. Tell us a little bit about the team.
Yeah, for sure. So we are a Native American paranormal investigative group. We founded Unearthing the Supernatural, I would say about a little over 2 years, right, Hero?
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. So my brother is or my brother on this side. My brother is a medicinal man in our tribe. So I'll probably let him tell you a little bit more about him. But we were I'm his brother. So for those of you who don't know, him and I are brothers. And so I was pretty much the medicinal man's helper all these years. So at the age of 13, he was selected to become a medicine man of the tribe. So over the years, I've kind of just followed him, done a lot of things. And with the interactions that he's gone through over the years, he has really, really gotten in tune with the spiritual world, I guess you can say, to where it's just the same as how you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
And I was actually at my girlfriend's house, and we were watching this show called Hollywood Medium, and this is like the true origin of Unearthing the Supernatural. And he was kind of going around, you know, giving readings to Hollywood celebrities and everything. And this right here really dawned on me. I was just like, okay, you know, why don't we try to do a little bit of the same thing, but especially kind of more specifically with our indigenous tribes. So I noticed that we grew up watching Ghost Adventures. We watched Ghost Hunters and all these other TV shows on Travel Channel, sci-fi and everything. And with that, I kind of wanted to shine a light to our indigenous teachings, our indigenous knowledge, and how we interact with spirits, because there really isn't anything out there that is kind of like the style that we do. So I'll go ahead and let my brother explain a little bit more about who he is and his background.
Perfect.
Yeah, so when I was 13, I was selected to be part of what I like to call a cultural exchange program. And so I was one of 4 selected from my tribe to go to kind of like a gathering of these young peoples. And what we would do is we would be taken to different parts of the country, different parts of different tribes. And we were taught the old ways of living, the old ways of doing ceremony songs, and just kind of interacting with other tribes. And so that took me away from high school. I was a freshman in high school at the time, and that took me away from school. Fortunately, I was homeschooled. They had that option back then, and I was pretty much just learned all I could. And the roles and the ceremonies I ended up picking up from my tribe allowed me to become a medicinal person, allowed me to be a knowledge keeper, and help out a lot of people, not just from our tribe, but from many different tribes all over Turtle Island. And yeah, it was my brother who really came up to us and came up to me and was like, you know, there's these shows that we watch on TV. There's these things that we have that are special to us as indigenous people. And so why don't we try to show the people how we interact with spirits? And it was that show. And it is also just my brother's been alongside and he's seen some crazy things that I deal with. And when we watch these shows, we were worried about the spirits there. It's like, okay, I don't know what's going on exactly behind the scenes, but from what we're seeing on the show, it seems like they poke at the bear and there's not a whole lot being done to give offering to these spirits or to help these spirits out and interact in a way that we as Indigenous people have always done. And so that's what really kind of pushed us into becoming Unearthing the Supernatural and wanting to express that true interaction, that true respect, that level of humility, and how Indigenous people have truly interacted with spirits for thousands of years. And so that's what these spirits have missed. It's what they're used to, and we're trying to show little aspects of it.
Absolutely. Well, we all have, ways that we got into the field. We're obviously here because it's obviously a calling for us, but we all got into the field in different ways. And I respect one thing that you both just said, big time. Everybody, when you ask them, how did you get into the field? Everybody always interprets their coming into the field from either ghost adventures or something like that, the high name paranormal shows and stuff like that. We're not here for popularity or anything, and I feel that watching shows like that, I love it. I love watching the shows, the locations, all of that, but the popularity is not why we're here. Me, at least, I'm here to help people. I'm here for other people's entertainment, obviously, but I respect the way that you guys both got in the field. It's interesting. I'm glad you guys did, because there's a lot of people out there that love you. I mean, here is our lead medium. Unearthing the Supernatural is great, she says. This person, Nathan, says that you guys helped him get in the supernatural field. So, you guys are making a difference, and it truly shows. You guys have a great show. First of all, before we go on, where can we find your show at?
Yeah, so you can find us at Unearthing the Supernatural on YouTube. We have a Facebook, Instagram. Just look up Unearthing the Supernatural. Pretty sure you'll be able to find us. And we also have a TikTok too. So we kind of post like little short clips here and there. A lot of lighthearted videos that we do behind the scenes too. So so if you want, we have a lot of content coming out and a lot of cool stuff coming your guys' way.
Awesome. And obviously we can't do one show without Raina throwing up on me. Thanks, Raymond. And Lurker definitely deserves some recognition, guys. And I couldn't agree more. You guys are a fantastic team. We're gonna get into your investigation style. Why you continue to be in the paranormal field. Have you ever had the moment where you absolutely have ever wanted to quit the field? All kinds of stuff. So first of all, you told us how you got in the field. Now let's rewind to the very beginning of when you guys came into the field. What was your very first investigation? And what made you guys want to keep doing this after that investigation?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty funny. The very first investigation I look back on is the Apache Death Cave. So I really wanted to just start doing this and start filming, and because I've been underneath my brother's wing for about good 15, 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just being his pupil. I believe he was working out of town, out of state at the time.
Yeah,
and
I was working in Texas at the time.
Yeah, so I was like, I was kind of antsy. I was excited, and I was just like, all right, well, it's going to be weeks away before he ever comes back to Arizona. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go do a test run real quick and just see how it is, see how the feel of it is. So
real quick, with that, I was proud of my brother for this moment right here, because like he said, he'd been learning a little bit underneath me. And for us as Indigenous people, there comes moments when you're an apprentice learning under someone, you have to kind of go on your own. Let's see how you are. Go out into the battlefield, go out into the field itself without me holding your hand, and let's see how you do. And my brother did great.
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So I went with myself, another member. His name's Bezpaw, who at the time wasn't like officially one of our members, but because
Yeah.
it was just a test run. But later on, he ended up becoming like a full-fledged member. And so we went into the cave, man. It was hilarious because all I had to film with was just my iPhone.
Yeah.
And I had my my iPad with me, and I was just like, all right, well, I don't have any equipment, I don't have any ghost hunting stuff, so I was just like, let me just download like a ghost like a spirit box app on my iPad. And I gotta let you know that like when I first started all this stuff, I was like, cool, I could see it on TV, but there's always still a lot of hesitancy. There's a lot of skepticism on a lot of the evidence that they captured, like as far as the equipment that they use. So I was just like, I just got this app on my iPad. It's like there's nothing like special about it or like spiritually tuned instrument, So we go in there into the death cave, and a little backstory on that. Long time ago, the Navajos and Apaches used to kind of be at war with each other, kind of fight over resources and everything back in the day. And there was an Apache war party that came to the Navajo Nation and destroyed a village and kind of killed everybody and took a few prisoners, a few female people in the village. So while the warriors were away hunting, they came back to their village and they saw that it was destroyed. So they went out to go track down the Apache warriors that did this, and they couldn't find them until one of the warriors felt warmth coming from underneath the ground. They saw a little bit of smoke coming out of cracks in the ground, and I guess there was a cave that went underground. So the warriors went and killed the lookouts that were at the entrance of the cave, and they yelled down, "Where's our women? What did you do with our women?" And they said, "Your women are dead." And they said, "Okay." So they grabbed a bunch of logs and bushes, and there's only one way in, one way out. They covered the entrance of the cave, and they lit it on fire and pretty much suffocated. There's like about 30 or so Apache warriors with horses underneath in that cave.
Wow.
And it got so desperate to where the Apaches slit the throats of the horses, and they used the blood to try to douse the flames. And so, yeah, it's pretty wild. So us being Navajo, the ones that did that to them, I just so happened to choose that spot for our very first investigation. So,
I mean, hey, yeah, I mean, not to interrupt you or anything, but do you think that was beneficial to the investigation, being that, there was a similarity there?
Oh yeah, definitely. It really kind of played out, especially with our EVPs that we had. I guess you could say there's a lot of aggression. There was a lot of kind of hate toward us going in there because we were the ones that did end their lives. We were the ones that got them pretty much stuck in that place. And in Native American tradition, it's kind of taboo to go to locations like, I guess you could say that's a grave or where a lot of people died. It's taboo to go to those places. But unless you're trained like my brother up here, and the songs and the ceremonies to be able to go and help those spirits, which is our intent for every investigation. We went in there, and this right here was pretty much where and so with this right here, this is where my skepticism kind of went out of the window, because when I was using this app, it was kind of like a spirit box.
Yeah.
And this spirit box inside my iPad started speaking Navajo to us. It started speaking our indigenous language to us.
Wow.
And there is no way that these apps know Navajo or Apache inside of its programming.
Right.
So we started like communicating with them and just recording off my iPhone. We were catching EVPs and everything. And I didn't know we caught those until when we were doing a review and everything. So that right there is kind of like a very first investigation. It was definitely scary and nerve-wracking at first, but going back on the teachings that my brother gave me and going back on the teachings of all the years of experience I've gone with my brother, I lean back on those teachings to be able to get us through the night, to be able to have a successful interaction. And I sang the songs, I sang the prayers, and I gave the offerings to the spirits that were in there. Pretty much our people were the one that put them in there. So I guess you could say release them.
Yeah.
And I think it worked. Oh, I'm pretty sure it worked, because the next time we went over there, we didn't capture anything. So
not a single voice, nothing.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah. So I got to praise my brother on that for good teachings, brother.
It does look like you guys, or sound like you guys, truly help these spirits that
Mhm.
were there. It's a sad story about the horses and all that kind of stuff, but
Oh yeah.
the fact that you guys were able to help those spirits that were, in distress, in need, and whatever, that was, that's a good thing. So welcome to everybody coming in, Bad to the Bone, Joshua, Lurker, all you guys, welcome to the show. uh, I have a question for you guys later into the show. I discovered something today that I haven't done yet. um, I just found it. Okay, I'll go ahead and ask you now. Brandon, I talked about this in the group chat, the incense thing. Did you see that video?
Hmm.
So I lit up an incense today and I put it in the bedroom here in an incense tray and just let it go. Well, I'm sitting here, and look over at the incense and the smoke was going all weird and whatnot. It was touching the ceiling. It was going all the way up to the ceiling. Then it was splitting into two pieces, and it was just doing all weird things. Um, so I decided I wanted to see maybe if I could communicate through that incense smoke or whatnot, to see if there was anything paranormal there. And I got a little video of it, and I'm seeming to think that in the video, I was able to capture something. I don't want to say it's paranormal though, but what are y'all thoughts on that? Have you ever heard of communicating through incense?
Yeah, so communicating through incense, communicating through smoke, charcoal, the elements of fire, all of that is a huge aspect of indigenous culture. The main elements are always present in a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Fire, grandpa fire, and all elements that branch from fire are have their songs, have their stories, have their ceremonies. Smoke is actually one of the indicators that we use to communicate with spirits. It's an avenue of prayer. It's an avenue of connection. It combines with the air. All the elements kind of work together to be able to bring forth spiritual connections. And
Mm-hmm.
so hence why we have smudgings where we use cedar, sage, where we use other different types of herbs that will burn on charcoal to be able to say our prayers, do a ceremony, do a cleansing, do whatever we need to do. And then also you have to talk to each and every element, each and every one of your tools to be able to interact with the spirits, because you never know how the spirits will choose to communicate with you.
Right.
Some elements may be easier for them. Some might be able to touch other things, whether it be water, air, wind, smoke, whatever it may be. They're there to try to be able to communicate, and they can use almost anything that is easier to them. And
Yeah.
so that's where, as indigenous people, we're always on the lookout. Our ears are always perked, our eyes are always moving for signs of spiritual communication, because you never know when a spirit is wanting to reach out. So
Well,
yes,
yeah. I mean, there's and if you guys don't mind, I want to show you the video that I captured during the
yeah,
event. But there's so many different things, like even for paranormal cleansings, I've gotten suggestions from people that you could put a remedy together using spices and herbs out of your kitchen, and you can do all kinds of stuff with just cleansing tools. There's also been pieces of devices that are not used for ghost hunting that have been used for ghost hunting because that's how the spirit chose to communicate. So it's fascinating. And like you said, you never know what they choose to communicate through. I guess whatever gives them that energy to communicate with you is what they're going to use, so
definitely. Just paying attention to yourself, and whether it's an intelligent being or not is something that you have to pay attention to too. Energy is always flowing around you. Spirits are always going to and from and multi planes of existence.
mhm.
And so that's where you live with energy, you live with the movements of the world around you and the world you can see and the world you can't see, because there are things out there that even us as humans aren't allowed to understand, and we just have to pretty much go with the flow.
Yes, Most definitely. 100% agree. So I'm going to show you guys that video. I want to see what your thoughts are because, you know, if there is something paranormal going on in this video, I find it amazing that I just figured out you can use incense to communicate. So I think it's really exciting, and I'm praying to God that I did capture something, you know? So here's the video. I'll let you guys take a look here. Is there somebody in here with us? Give me a straight line if there is. Give me a straight line up and down if there's somebody in here. Is there someone passing through? Straight up and down for yes. Can you give me a clear line? Let me know you're here by giving me a quick... Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Awesome.
So fascinating, man.
Definitely. Definitely. So yeah, that's actually a viable technique that not necessarily quite asking the questions with the smoke, but you in your spirit, in your mind, as when you have a smoker, you have something burning there and you feel a presence, it kind of validates when you actually see something like that. Yeah. And whether you speak it with your mind or with your heart, us as indigenous people, we know that spirits there, spirits around. So smoke is actually one of the main things that we use along with tobacco to be able to pray to the creator. We say it's a direct connection, almost like similar to how we use our cell phones to call all across the country. For us, it's tobacco and the tobacco smoke to send our prayers directly to the spirit world.
Okay. There has been investigations, Brandon, if I'm not mistaken, that we have used tobacco for peace offerings. Am I right? Or
I think we brought tobacco with one time, but then we forgot to use it.
Yep. So we do carry a bag of tobacco around because I'm going to say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But when we go to a cemetery, right? You know, I don't know if you guys are for investigating cemeteries or not, but you know, it's just little investigations that we do. But when we visit a cemetery and we know there are indigenous people buried there, before we leave the cemetery, what I do myself is sprinkle a little tobacco in all four corners of the cemetery. Is that a proper way to send a peace offering or say goodbye? Or
it is something that we do as well, as far as for giving tobacco offerings, for thanks, for communicating, for interacting. Yeah. To us, tobacco is a universal kind of like currency in the spirit realm. They say whenever you interact with spirits or whenever you're doing something with spirit, anything of the spiritual side, you must always have tobacco with you and offer that tobacco. Because just like how I mentioned, when we smoke tobacco or use tobacco, it's a direct connection to the creator, to the spirit world. Yeah. For them, it is the same thing. It's a calling card to have their prayers answered. It's like currency. It's like I have a way to communicate now with this tobacco. So it is something that they highly value. It is something that we highly value as indigenous people. And all spiritual entities that we've come across have always loved the tobacco beyond just the other offerings that we give. So yes, that's always good to give tobacco offerings. Generally, we won't put the tobacco on all surrounding the cemetery. We don't normally go to cemetery in general, just because we have there's a certain level of respect. Unless there's a reason for us to be somewhere, kind of interacting with the spirits, we kind of just let them be and let them interact. But like I said, there's got to be a reason for us to go investigate or for us to do a ceremony. There has to be a purpose behind it. And so if you're there to communicate with something, though, and you have a purpose and a reason, then the only recommendation I have for that is just leave it in one spot where you entered and where you exit. You always kind of cover your tracks. And then you kind of treat it as currency. And how our prayer goes is we always say, I guess translated in English, is in exchange for this tobacco, or thank you so much for your interactions. Thank you so much for speaking with us, communicating with us. I am thankful for it. And we have this tobacco as offering here, so we want to give it to you in exchange that we separate our ways. You chose to stay here. This is where you choose to be. This is where you choose to reside, and this is where you're going to stay. You are not, in exchange for this tobacco, you're not to follow us. You're not to harm us. You're not to go back with us at all, or any of our family members or anything. So it's like a deal, an exchange, saying here's something to give to you as an offering. You guys can be content here, and we part ways in a good way. And we have never had anything follow us in all the years that we've been doing things.
Wow. Brandon, you and Kara do something similar, correct? When we leave an investigation,
yeah, me and my wife, we've got kind of like a prayer that we say before we leave, and one of the locations that we were actually leaving, she was the first one into the van, and she ended up having a plastic bottle thrown from the back of the van at her.
I swear.
So whatever was trying to follow was not too happy about it.
Jeez.
I swear I was also in the van as well. I was in the back of the van. I did not throw that bottle.
You were climbing in when it happened, yeah.
Jeez. I didn't even see it get thrown either. You know, all I know is she had just got done doing her prayers and everything. And then all of a sudden she's like, what the heck? And I look up there and there's a plastic bottle laying beside her. I'm like, that wasn't there a second ago. It was so weird. But you know, those spirits, there were so many of them. We spent 21 hours in this place. So of course, they were probably upset because we were disturbing the hell out of them. You know, we even discovered that there was a father, a mother, and they had their kids there too. Their kids actually were showing themselves. We discovered that the father, at one point, we discovered the father trying to get the kids to bed and everything too. So. It was a really interesting investigation.
Nice.
Cool.
Absolutely. So we went back to the beginning. We talked about your first investigation. We talked about how you got started. Now, you guys have a certain technique when you're investigating, right?
Correct. Oh, definitely.
Okay. Now, what would you say your technique is, and how does it maybe separate from everybody else's technique? Because we all have our own styles and everything, but to conduct a successful investigation, you need a technique and you need a style. So, what is your style?
Yeah, so kind of our style and our little formula that we have. And I wouldn't really say formula, but whenever we go on an investigation or we go to interact with spirits, it's a ceremony to us. Through all these years, I've been interacting with my brother. There's kind of like a very strict procedures that you do whenever you go to interact or communicate with spirits. And it's just step by step from even planning an investigation. You have to really keep an eye out and be wary of all your surroundings and everything, because spirits and all these things might happen or might try to stop you, or things might get in your way. And all these are messages that can that lead up to the investigation to be able to show you what kind of night that you're going to be having. Sorry. And so every investigation that we go on is pretty much a ceremony that we do, because our first instinct, our first step that we do is we're there to help spirits. We're there to make communication and pretty much provide whatever we can for them. And we show the people some of the techniques that we go on. And we're very fortunate that every investigation that we've gone on, we've always interacted or met a new type of spirit that has its own story, that has its own teachings. And there's always a certain way, a certain style that you have to communicate. There's a certain way that you have to walk. Even your mindset has to be a certain way. Even some other dialects that you have to use to be able to communicate with these spirits. And I can probably let my brother explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when we investigate, it goes back to a lot of knowledge that we have had to learn, a lot of things that we have gone through. You interact with these spirits, and my brother's right. You have to act a certain way. They think a certain way. Your intent has to be a certain way. And it's literally going into a battlefield sometimes, especially if something's doesn't have the best intentions for you or any other being that walks into that location. And so for the most part, though, we interact with spirits who are thankful for us for being there, for them to get offering. We always try to go in at first to an investigation kind of dressed down to where it's just us. I try to turn off any spiritual gifts I have. We don't take any of our protections. We don't even don our protective like necklaces or any of the herbs that we normally use on an everyday basis. We take all that off. We try to go into an investigation as plain Jane, normal as any other person, and just use our senses without any extra senses, I guess you can say. Don't use our gifts, don't use any abilities. Just go in as a human and see what you see how you interact, and see how those spirits react with you. Because the reason why we do that is we want to make sure that these spirits, when they see us, we want to see how their environment is for just a normal person going in. How would a normal person go into like a haunted location? How would they interact if they were just a new person in their environment, or just a regular person in their environment, without scaring them off, without kind of showing our hand, I guess our poker hand? We go in and see, and that gives us a lot of evidence to where, okay, if a normal person were to come in here, how are they going to react? Then from there, we try to interact with them and try to see what's going on. Another aspect is that technique is who we are as indigenous healers and warriors. I've been raised to how to deal with the darker side of things. And you go into enemy territory, they say you try to go into enemy territory without being seen, without them noticing you. Because if you raise the red flags, if you sound the alarms and there's going to be defenses going up, they're going to send whatever they're trying to hide, they're going to toss it out the window, or they're going to bail, or you're going to get abnormal results. So that's why we try to go in as plain as possible and see who's bumping in the night, pretty much, if it is something dark.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep. We get the story of the spirits. We get to understand what's going on, try to do as much diagnosing as we can. And then once we get kind of a game plan and figure out what's bothering the spirits or what's bothering the people, whatever our purpose is for being there, then we bust out we get dressed to the nines, we get our protections on, we get the masks that you may have seen in our show. We have all the ceremonial kind of teachings that we have. That all comes to fruition, and we're there to take care of business, pretty much.
By the way, my favorite part of the show, when you guys bust in, full equipment, full suit, that is my favorite part. Absolutely amazing. So
when it's time to do battle.
Yeah, right. We got a few audience questions for you guys here.
Sure.
Nathan wants to know, have you guys ever gotten sick during an investigation?
Yes. So, I believe for this one, that investigation was a place we went to. Is an old YMCA building in Miami, Arizona, and that one we dealt with a spirit that messes with the psyche, that messes with the mind, and very, very powerful being. In English, we call them phantoms, but there's another spiritual name that Hero knows that they're called. But that one officially was one of the very first investigations where they were very, very powerful, that even my teachings, my training that I've gone through over the years wasn't good enough to be able to protect myself against them, because it's just how powerful they were. And to where I just immediately got a really, really bad headache, and that headache just started swirling around my head. Like it was like a single ball, but it was like moving everywhere. I couldn't focus on the camera. I couldn't focus on the investigation. And I told my brother, I was just like, I need to step outside right now. and they kind of had to help me outside of the building. And then afterwards, that's when my brother had to run a little small ceremony for me to be able to kind of get all that stuff out of me. And yeah, that wasn't too fun. And that investigation was the very first investigation where I was just like, nah, I had thoughts of stopping investigating at that point, but as my brother's teachings are, going gets tough. You just go at it, man.
Absolutely. And Hero, have you ever gotten sick during an investigation?
I've had moments of where I notice that I'm feeling tired or something's affecting me. I kind of pick up on those fluctuations of, I guess, what some people would say starting to get sick. And there's certain techniques, there's certain songs and ceremonies, there's certain ways of counteracting that. Mm-hmm. And I guess in an investigation that we have recorded, no, I have not gotten sick. I've gotten afflicted as far as where I know something's affected us, but nothing to where it's like how Sean Clanny was affected. That was pretty intense. That like we said, it made him question whether we should continue investigating or not. But I've never gotten to that level. Thank goodness. I'm knocking on wood. But off camera, doing ceremonies for other people or doing ceremonies for my tribe, there have been moments where I have been brought to my knees. I've been humbled. There have been moments where it's gone down to where you're lower than the rocks. You're lower than the lowest animal. There's beings out there that are no joke. There's beings out there that make you humble, that make you respect the paranormal, make you respect the supernatural, because we are just humans. We are frail beings, and so we can only do so much. But there were and those times I was fortunate to have my teachings. At those times I was fortunate to have a support group, to have people there behind me to keep me going.
Mm-hmm. And at some point, during paranormal investigating, something is always bound to happen. You never know. It's a very unpredictable field. You never know what's going to happen, and this could happen to anybody, which our number one rule on our team is make sure if you got to go somewhere during an investigation to take somebody with you. Never go alone, because you never know what's going to happen. Right up to the point of getting possessed could happen just like that. Snap of fingers and you could be possessed. And if there's nobody there with you, nobody's going to know about it. You're not going to be able to get any help. So, you never know what's going to happen. And it could happen to anybody. So,
oh yeah.
I know I've been possessed before. Not on an investigation or anything. A really dumb way to get possessed, but I got possessed by playing the Ouija board. And you do the math, whether I played the board again after that. So probably never will. So
right.
We do have a couple more questions from the audience for you guys. Alton wants to know, so you guys going to Skinwalker Ranch if you get the chance?
Yes, we would love to go to Skinwalker Ranch, but normally I think it wouldn't be for the reasons you think. If we wanted to kind of go to Skinwalker Ranch to kind of look for skinwalkers, we can just go in our backyard and try to find them. But
why not?
Skinwalker Ranch would typically be more of like extraterrestrial kind of more interdimensional type of, if you say spirits or extraterrestrials or beings of that nature, it would kind of be for that kind of interaction like that.
Absolutely. Brian wants to know, do you think the anticipation and energy from people ghost hunting locations frequently can create spirits known as tulpa?
Yes. Other terms I've heard beyond tulpa, I've also heard potato head, Mr. Potato Head spirits. There's also other aspects to frequently investigated locations. I'm a firm believer in when a location becomes popular and a lot of people start investigating it, a lot of people start interacting with the spirits there, they learn, they know, and they're almost like fed. They're fed like energy to where they learn how to interact with the equipment. They learn how to use a K2. They learn how to use an SB7. They learn how to jump in front of pretty much what are they called? The Connect cameras. Anyway, all the different types of equipment. The spirits will learn how to use them, and they'll become accustomed to it. And they'll be more. It's like almost like training. I don't want to say even training, but they'll get more accustomed to people coming around. They'll get more used to it, how to interact with the tools. But locations that haven't been interacted with, then you have spirits who don't know what you're doing. They're more cautious. They're more, what is this person? What are they bringing here? What is this device? And it can be kind of difficult to interact with them. So you do have to kind of go at them like, you have to understand, they've probably, if they're old spirits, they've never seen a cell phone. They've never seen any type of electricity in your hand. They don't know maybe the language that you have. Compared to a spirit who is around all these other people, they pick up English. They pick up all these other languages. And like Vulture City, they start learning the news. They know what's going on with the news.
Yeah.
They know what's going on with all these current events, worldwide events. And
Cardinals football team.
The Cardinals football team.
Yeah.
So we have to give credit to a lot of these beings because they are beings of energy. They can pick up radio waves. They can pick up all these Wi-Fi signals. I'm pretty sure they have some means of that. And they'll learn. If you're a ghost and you see all these things going across and hearing all these things, might as well pick up what you can.
Absolutely.
So, they get fed, they get more energy, that's for sure, for more popular locations. So expect that.
Absolutely. We have Arthur from Wichita Falls, Texas. Welcome. Thanks for joining the show. Now I have one question for you guys. Brandon, if you have anything, feel free to ask as well. I have a question for you guys before we go to intermission. And that question is, during our investigation, I think, Brandon, you're the one that started this. On investigations, if we don't have any knowledge of the spirits that we're dealing with, a few questions that we'll ask is things such as, who's the president of the United States? Or something like that. Now, we found it to be a little beneficial sometimes, but never really got a clear answer or what we were looking for. But what do you guys think? I think that is a really good question to ask a spirit, to see what time frame they're from, what century or decade or whatever,
Yeah, for sure. I have one story with that was honestly really cool that we interacted with, actually happened in Vulture City. So during our very first investigation that we did in Vulture City was actually during the COVID pandemic. And when we went in there, we had to wear masks and pretty much the COVID regulations and everything. And what was really interesting about that investigation is to kind of find out the time frame of where the spirit is kind of residing. We look back in history, and in Vulture City, they were hit with the pandemic as well 100 years ago, which was the Spanish flu.
Okay.
And so that swept through the whole town and killed a bunch of those spirits there. And so we were asking questions like, did you guys have to wear face masks? And they would light up the instruments and everything inside of a room. We're asking them pandemic questions like, did you guys social distance? Did a lot of you die from this sickness? Because we're going through a pandemic right now as well. And so that was honestly a really cool interaction that we had to kind of gauge the time frame and the mindset they were at. Because a lot of them did die from that sickness as well. A lot of elders, children, and women, men as well. A lot of them died from that sickness. So it was honestly, even though it really sucked going through the pandemic and everything, that was one of the avenues we were able to connect with the spirits at the time.
Most definitely. Very interesting. We found a lot of beneficial hacks during investigations that you can use that some people may never known about. So it's all about the way you do things. I can honestly say there is no wrong way to do anything on an investigation. Everybody has their own style, and the way you do things is on you. Let's say that I do things by my way, and I ask these questions, and we use our spirit box and that kind of stuff. And a former team member does something completely opposite, even though they knew our method worked when they were on our team. And this isn't a real thing; it's just a scenario. But if they did something completely opposite because they know it's going to work for their team, then that's on them, and that's perfectly fine because we all have our own method. And I find it really interesting of how everything works the way it does. It's a very unpredictable field.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's honestly really cool to be. When it comes to the spiritual world, there's so many spirits, there's so many stories, and there's so many different type of factions out there. And so people have different ways of interacting with spirits and everything. And that's one thing that we love is we're open to learning, and we're open to, experiencing new styles. Just like my brother used to tell me all these different tribal ways that these tribes used to communicate with these spirits, all these ways that these guys used to tactics and songs and ceremonies for these different situations was honestly really cool. So, you have different spirits from different religions, different backgrounds and everything. So you just got to find out who you're speaking to and find the best way to be able to interact with them.
Most definitely. Absolutely. So we are going to take a short intermission, about 3 to 4 minutes. When we come back, we are going to be asking you guys about your cleansing technique that we talked about before. Really interesting. So stick around, guys, because you don't want to miss this. I definitely recommend trying it for yourselves. So stick around for that, and we're going to take some more audience questions and talk a little bit more about your team. So if you're just coming in, we're here with Unearthing the Supernatural, Hero and Sean Quinn, and the show is going absolutely amazing. But stick around. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
It's been coming up like sun above. It's making us come together. Been making plans and joining hands. Come by me, stand and come together. When they know we've had enough, they'll try and call our bluff. But no, there's no stopping us. We're making a promise. Yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh, yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh, yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. They say we're weak when we don't speak, but they don't see us come together. Behind closed doors, we choose love, not war. It's at our core when we come together. They will hear us loud and clear. We'll walk right through the fear, and then once we'll all appear and say, we're standing right here, come on. Yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh, yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting
Welcome back, everybody. If you're just jumping in, we are here with Hero and Sean Glenn of Unearthing the Supernatural. Before the break, we were talking about a lot of things about your team and whatnot. Now we have a few more audience questions for you guys. Starting off with Nathan's question. What's your choice of weapon to carry during the investigation?
Ooh. Okay, so it kind of depends, but our basic carrying weapon, I would have to say, would be my knife. We have spiritually blessed weapons that can be able to go into the spirit world and pretty much be able to interact and touch those beings on that side. So kind of my go-to weapon would have to be my knife. And if you guys watch our Bobby Mackey's episode, you can see that being used in full force.
I'd say for me, mine would have to be my giant arrowhead that I recently have. It's an obsidian or black jet arrowhead, and black jet and obsidian is actually one of our sacred stones in the tribe. And so that one is used to protect ourselves, and it seems to have gotten the attention of a lot of spirits every time I bring it out. They always talk about it, they always point at it, and they never touch it, but they always acknowledge its presence. So I call it Seik. You might be seeing it on the show every now and then in the upcoming new episodes, but definitely my new favorite weapon to bring along.
Absolutely. Awesome. Very cool. And Linda wants to know, did you ever meet up with that particular spirit? Oh, I don't know if this is a question for you guys or anyway. So before the show, backstage, we were talking with you guys, and Hero, we were talking before for help with a case of ours. And within that case, we needed help cleansing a house. We ended up not doing the case. We were dropped as their paranormal team and whatever. But you gave us a really interesting way of cleansing a house. And this involved several different things that are not used in an everyday cleansing. So if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about that and share that with our audience of your way of cleansing the house. Or any building for that matter.
Yeah, most definitely. So to kind of bring a little bit of light to the conversation we're going to be talking about, there's a certain philosophy that must be understood. And the indigenous culture, the indigenous peoples, we view our home as a living spirit. The home itself is a being that we respect, a being that we give offering to, and a being that protects us. And so even when we build a home, you're kind of putting together this being, and you have to breathe life into it again. Or you have to breathe life into it when you are done building it or when you're moving in for the first time. And so with that, we always say that you have to give offering to your home. When you're first moving in, you always feed the home. With the first meal you make in that home, you kind of take pieces of every item of the dishes that you have, if it's a meat, vegetables, whatever you have, you put that together with water, and then you take it outside. And we usually use corn pollen or some other offerings along with that. It's a white corn pollen, white cornmeal, ash sometimes too. We'll put all that together into an offering. And we'll go towards the doorway. We usually like to start from the east. We usually build our homes with the doorway facing the east. But you'll do that, and you'll talk to your home. You'll say, this is who we are. This is myself. This is my family. We're going to be living here. We're going to be growing up here. We're going to be sleeping here. This is where we rest. This is where we recover. This is where we're going to feel at home. And so we want to give this offering to you, to breathe life into you, to protect us, take care of us, to make sure that we grow safely, we grow strong here, and that sickness stays away, badness stays away. You are our protector, and you are the roof over our heads. So you acknowledge the home in that way. And they say that when you're in your home and everything's turned off and you just hear creaking out of nowhere, like your house cracks, they say your home is breathing. That's you acknowledge it. It's breathing. And so your home to us is a protector, is a protection. And along with that food offering, we also burn cedar in the home. We'll start a fire, the first fireplace that's in there, you burn cedar with it. And then with those ashes, once the fire's cooled down, the charcoal's cooled down, you take some of the ashes out, the black ashes, and you'll put it above the windows, you put it above the doors. And that's to provide even more layers of protection for your home. And that's just usually the first times when you're going into your home. That's kind of the initial protections, the bubbles, the shields that you put up. And then you also can have a medicinal person come in, sing songs, sing prayers to also add on top of all those protections. Hence why if you were to go to an indigenous person's home, it's a very sacred location. The land around it, the home, if these are done correctly, your home is going to take care of your family. Your home is going to be the place you can rest your head. And so that's some of the cleansings that we do when we first move in. And there are several others that you utilize when you're, if you move into a home and it's already has some things that, let's just say ghosts, let's just say other beings that have laid claim to it. You could also, without you even knowing, be building on top of the stereotypical Indian burial ground or sacred site. There could be things affecting you that you don't even know about. So in those situations, you kind of tune up a little bit of the cleansings a little bit. That's when you start bringing in the arrowheads. That's when you start bringing in the isis, the other different medicinal herbs, the cleansings, the songs. That's when you do bring a medicinal person to do that type of offerings. But if you don't have access to an indigenous person, there is something going bump in the night in your home. Tobacco is huge, just to even smoke that tobacco. I don't recommend using sage, burning sage, because the white sage that you see in all these spiritual stores and everything now for sale is actually illegally harvested from the indigenous people, and that actually is being put on the endangered species list, the California white sage.
Oh, wow.
So it is because of all these spiritual shops and that particular herb is going extinct, as well as Palo Santo wood is starting to go extinct. So do not, I just beg of everyone who is listening, do not buy your items from a spiritual store unless you know the person who has attained these items has gotten it in a good way, harvested themselves, done offering, and is doing it in a sustainable way to where when we go and get herbs, we give offering to the youngest plant so that way it can grow and continue and prosper. And we only take what we need with a specific prayer, and the rest of the bunch can still grow and prosper, and it will never go extinct. That's how we sustained ourselves.
Okay.
Kind of going along with that.
Wow.
Bless your home. Respect your home. That is the place where you lay your head, and acknowledge the spirits that are around. Acknowledge the land that you're on. All across this Turtle Island here, it's been said in university documentaries and university research that you can think of the population of every town in the United States, triple it. That's the indigenous population that it used to be prior to colonial contact.
Wow.
So there was massive cities, there was massive sustainability, like cultural architecture that was around. They were able to have farms. There's a book that I recommend, is called Indigenous Capitalism, and that is actually where some people say, oh, capitalism is something that was brought over. Not necessarily. The indigenous people had trade routes, markets. They had a loan system. They had things that are very familiar to a capitalist market. They had that, and they perfected it. And so it was an amazing time back then, and the interactions with spirits was truly powerful. And those spirits don't just disappear. Those spirits are still here. And so to acknowledge those beings, acknowledge where you're at, that's key to making sure your home is sustainable and cleansed.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us. Absolutely amazing. And it's different from all the other cleansing techniques that I've heard about. So Linda asks, do you take ashes from your first fire in the fireplace?
Yes. So if it's a brand new home and you have a fireplace there, then you use the ashes from the first fire. If it's a home you moved into and there was already a fireplace there, clean it out first, brush it out, have it have a chimney sweep, whatever needs to go in there, however you need to do to clean it out first. And that first fire you build after that, you use those ashes. If you don't have a fireplace inside your home, I definitely recommend getting a fire pit outside, whether that be you dig one out yourself or you get a fire pit from like Home Depot or Lowe's or something, and you use the fire from there. And while the fire is burning, you acknowledge the elements that are being around, you acknowledge the fire, and you just say a simple prayer, even with your heart, with your mind, with your spirit, your intent of setting that protection for your home. The fire is huge when it comes to protection as well. So have that intent throughout this whole process.
Hero, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What if you live in an apartment complex?
No. That one is very difficult. It's very difficult because you really can't build a fire. Maybe you can go out to the charcoal place, but the kind of solutions we've had is we'll get like a cast iron pan, and then we'll kind of put it in the stovetop, even just aluminum foil. You fold it up a couple times, and you turn on the burner, and that's where we have, as Indigenous people, we have our cedar. We'll use that to kind of cleanse off our area, or we use tobacco. We'll smoke the tobacco in the house, and we'll use the smoke. We'll use the ashes from the tobacco, the ashes from the cedar, whatever you can to introduce the fire element without burning your house down.
Yes, most definitely. So, but yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with us. It's definitely amazing to hear, and it's different from other techniques that I've heard about. So, the audience over here is doing absolutely awesome tonight. They are supporting us and the show with you guys 100%. And, you guys got a great fan base. You guys got a great show and everything. So, what can we expect next from Unearthing the Supernatural?
So we're going to be having some more episodes coming out very soon to our YouTube. So if you guys want to stay up to date with that, you can just follow our social medias. We normally post updates on there. Sometimes we do Facebook Lives, just spring of the moment out of nowhere. We just want to talk to everybody. And we're also going to be going to a lot of Paracons next year. So we're going to be going to Vulture City Paracon in Arizona, Ventura Paracon in California, OC Paracon in California, and then we're actually going to be going to another Paracon in Maine. So just follow our social medias. If you guys are in those areas, just come hang out with us.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there that we got a Minnesota Pair Unity Con. So,
ooh, we'd love
just
to go out
throwing it
there. We'd love to go out there.
One absolutely awesome thought that I had this whole time. I would love to get my team with your team for a collaboration.
I'd be down. Just as
that
long
would
as
be so cool.
In the summertime up there. In the summertime.
Us desert people down here, we don't like the cold very much.
Right now, all of our investigating is on a big pause. I'd say, when was our next one, Brandon? Like February?
I think so, something like that. Once it starts warming up a little bit.
Yeah, there's no way that I would be out right now investigating. It is too cold.
Batteries.
Well, I think it's 2 nights from now. We're supposed to be about negative 36 with the wind.
Ooh, ouch!
That's brutal.
Y'all want to come to Minnesota?
Summertime for sure.
Yeah,
check out the stadium.
Yeah, right. Nathan says, "Have you tried to the spirits through the fire?"
I'm assuming like communication through the fire.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I think that's what he's saying.
Yeah. So that's actually one of our main techniques that we use beyond paranormal investigating. So I say that because there's ceremonies that we do for people, for our tribe, even people outside of our tribe, where we utilize the fire, we utilize the charcoal. And the only reason we don't really show it on camera is because visually there's nothing going on. Because visually there's nothing to be captured on camera per se, because the medicine person that looks into the charcoal, they see the things that are going on in the charcoal, similar to like how I guess someone looks into a crystal ball. They kind of see things that are going on, but the fire kind of moves and makes shapes. And like you'd have to have a camera zoomed into the fireplace. And if you know cameras, looking into a fire is very hard on a camera lens. So you get a lot of lens flares, all kinds of things going on. And then it's usually in a dark room to where even then you don't really see anything going on. But spiritually, there is a lot that goes on. And so those ceremonies are usually more intimate, more private, and you're helping an individual patient out. So we usually just we make sure that those aren't really recorded. And we just do what we can to help the patient. So there's a lot of that goes on. What you see on Unearthing the Supernatural is very cherry-picked in a sense that, yeah, it's amazing interactions that we get. Yeah, it's you see some of our techniques and stuff that we have, but we also respect who we are and where we come from, and we protect the sacredness of who we are. And we try to make sure that what we show is something that the audience can not only handle, but the audience can also learn from without being able to be without it being considered cultural appropriation, if you could say that.
Yep. No, absolutely. Agree with you. A couple more audience questions here. You guys are fantastic here in the audience. I'm loving this tonight.
I am.
Linda says, how far do you travel to do cleansings?
The farthest I have traveled has been to Kentucky.
I used to live down there.
Yep. So that's the farthest I've traveled east anyway to do ceremony. We'll travel wherever we're needed. There is a protocol to asking for ceremony. There's an offering that has to be done to the medicinal person to ask for ceremony, even for prayers. That's just kind of how it's been done, and it's called if you're going to ask someone for help, you always have to give them an offering, usually in tobacco. Nowadays it's gotten more into monetary, just because tobacco, turquoise, used to be tobacco, turquoise, sheep, livestock, things of that nature, precious materials like silver and gold. It used to be too, but nowadays it's gotten more toward monetary because it's hard to come by those other items. So the biggest thing that you'll find when you're asking for any medicinal person of indigenous tribe is that you have to have that offering. It's always important and respectful to, when you ask for ceremony, at least have tobacco to give to the medicinal person when you're asking for help. And then when the medicine person comes, this isn't even beyond me. When you ask any medicinal person, the protocol is you give tobacco offering just to ask. And whether he says yes or no, it's up to him. But you at least just showing up and taking his time. You have that tobacco first. And then from there, you make sure you get him there. You get him the gas, or back then it used to be make sure that you have the horse ready for him to take him over, or you have the caravan or whatever you need to get him to the location. Once he's there, you feed him, you make sure the medicine man's taken care of, and whatever he needs to interact with the spirits and to give offering to the spirits as well. And then from there, you make sure he's able to get back home. So you just kind of like taking care of the doctor, pretty much.
Okay.
You gotta be able to Venmo tobacco.
Right.
No, but that's protocol that a lot of people don't understand. And it actually, if you were to go to any medicine person without that in mind, the protocol in mind, then you can really offend an elder from that. So just for everyone's knowledge, if you were to ever to ask an elder, even for a teaching, even for anything of that nature, have an offering of some kind ready. That's just respect. That's protocol. And that's just something that out of your good heart should be able to do.
Most definitely. Brian says, can you explain your recent experience with a Thunderbird spirit and the significance of it?
Ooh, that one was really crazy. So we were doing an overnight investigation in Vulture City, and it was kind of a public event that was hosted there. I do the ghost tours over there at the location, and they asked us to come out to the event, and luckily John Zaffis was there. Johnny Zaffis, the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren, was actually out there for that investigation as well. So my brother was asked to perform a protection ceremony at the beginning of the ghost hunting event to be able to protect everybody for the interactions with the spirits that we're going to do later on that night. And during that ceremony, or after the ceremony was done and over with, John came up to me. He pulled me aside. He's like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "See what?" He's like, "There's a giant bird that flew over the entire city." I was just like, a giant bird? And all these things kind of started going through my mind because Vulture City is known for having spiritual giants there. And that's kind of like a whole nother story of spiritual beings in our creation stories in the lands of Arizona, where there used to be monsters and ancient deities that used to roam around the lands. And it said that Vulture City was actually buried, is one of the burial sites where those monsters were buried a long time ago. And one of those monsters in those areas was actually a thunderbird. So people in Vulture City, even back into the early 1900s, residents of Vulture City used to see these giant shadows, these giant beings that used to walk around the town. There's actually newspaper clippings back in the day of these sightings and everything. It was really interesting. So after the ceremony, he pulled me aside, told me he saw a giant bird, and I told my brother, and the first thing that pops in our mind was a thunderbird. So we're like, okay, so we'll just ask the spirits that are here if they've seen anything. And later on that night, we did the investigating with our crew, and as well as a lot of other spectators that wanted to go to the overnight investigation. We had a SB7 spirit box out, and while we're asking questions to the spirits throughout the whole night, they were pretty much giving hints of something's wrong. You know, we're hiding. Come hide down here. You know, I was just like, well, what are you guys hiding from? And then one of our members asked, well, do you guys need protection? And right after, through the SB7, there was a cry of a giant thunderbird that came through the SB7.
Wow.
Initially, my brother and I stood up in excitement because we're just like, holy-ish. You know, like that came through an SB7. And immediately followed right after was fear, because there's an ancient being, a monster that's flying around spiritually out here. And we luckily we recorded that, and it's on our YouTube if you guys want to go check that out too. The Cry of the Thunderbird, that's on there. And I told John Zaffis, because he's considered the godfather of the paranormal, and so I presented that to him. And he said, give me a couple days to think about this, and I'll get back to you. And so he took a step back, really analyzed it, and then called us back. And pretty much he said from his contacts that he has from all over the United States, all over the world, all these spiritualists are all saying that there's a lot of things going on right now spiritually and physically at the same time. Plus, you know, like all these wars that are happening, like Ukraine, and all this tension around the world. Back then, whenever you would have a thunderbird or sightings of these ancient monsters or these deities coming back, it's a message of warning, of saying, be careful of how you're living your lives. Be careful of what you're doing on the day-to-day basis. Otherwise, these tragedies that happened a long time ago will resurface themselves again. Yeah, so that's kind of like the story that we got from the story of the thunderbird. So, yeah, that's on our YouTube if you guys want to go check that one out. It's by far the coolest EVP I think we got.
It sounds like it. That's absolutely awesome. So we have two more audience questions for you guys, and then I have one more question, whatever you got, Brandon. But we'll cover our last audience questions here. Linda wants to know if you guys cover Ohio, if you can do Ohio.
We're not really familiar with the area 100%, but I do have contacts that can tell me what I need to know. So if we go out there, we'll definitely be where we can help, where we're open to going. Like I said, it's just getting us out there. Once we get out there, we're doing everything we can to help. That's just how we do things. No matter where it's at.
That's what it's all about. Truly is. It's all about helping, you know, not only clients, but it's also helping spirits.
Exactly.
That's when I opened Minnesota Spirit Hunters, that was my standpoint. I want to help. Help is number one thing. I got rules and regulations for my team, but my number one thing is helping the spirits and helping the people. So
definitely,
that's what it's all about. And then Linda asked, have you any experience with portals?
Plenty. So when it comes to portals, bridges, I guess what some people would consider portals, just the connections that are around. Some are more permanent than others. Some, like us indigenous people, will call them like sacred sites. Other places they're mobile. You can actually use ceremonies to conjure them up. I hate using the word conjure, but to have them appear and use them to communicate with spirits. Even you yourself, they say in indigenous cultures that yourself, you have 13, I guess similar to chakras or portals or accesses, antennas to be able to access different aspects of your spirituality. And so when it comes to portals, yes, I recommend going to our YouTube channel, Unearthing the Supernatural. Just type that up into YouTube and you'll see our channel right there. We do have several instances of portals being around. We haven't had a direct episode of talking about portals, but that is definitely something that we look forward to talking about in the future. A little more details.
Yes, absolutely. So, and then Vicky wants to know if you guys have ever investigated in Missouri.
We have not. We've driven through there, and that was actually a fun time. I think my brother got us lost in Missouri.
Apple Maps avoided the tolls and like had me take the back roads of Missouri to go through the state. There's like a hurricane passing through, a hurricane storm that just went through and everything. It was a crazy night. Yeah,
the remnants of the hurricane.
No.
Investigation, and we have not yet. No, we would like to. Like I said, there's a lot of places we haven't gone yet, and we'd love to. We're just wide open. We're still pretty young, and we still have a lot of investigating to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's where I'm at. Minnesota Spirit Hunters. We mostly, we've been to where all have we been, Brandon? We've done Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Iowa. Yeah, just those 4 states. That's how we filmed in, and we would love to expand our base of investigating. Like you said, we're still young. We have a ton of years left. My point here, short story, we ain't going nowhere.
That's
we
correct.
We still have a lot to do, and we're gonna keep doing it. So
I'm praying that gas prices go down.
Gas prices need to keep going down.
hey, I mean, you got to admit that the $20 bill is starting to twinning like it used to, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I think that's affecting paranormal investigating nowadays is inflation. It's hitting us pretty hard.
Oh yeah,
we have to live our normal lives every day too, working regular jobs too. So it gets pretty tough out there for us paranormal investigators.
I almost feel like I'm working just to put gas in my car.
Oh, right? I feel that. I feel that.
Maybe I shouldn't have went and bought a Jeep, I don't know, but no, it's all fun. It's a great field to be in. The paranormal is, like I said before, we're gonna keep doing this. Probably I'm gonna keep doing it until I can't no more, for sure. I love what I do. Wouldn't change for nothing. Oh wow, really? Vicky says gas is $2.41 here.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
I'll take a couple gas cans over there.
So take a whole water barrel.
Right. Joshua has a Jeep too. Awesome. Not bad vehicles. So I guess I have a big question for you guys. And then we have kind of a fun question for you guys. What is that one moment during an investigation that almost made you say, screw this, and I don't want to do it no more?
Oh, so it's kind of, even just remembering it kind of still freaks me out, because when it's going back to that investigation I had at the YMCA. And in there, when I mentioned the phantoms, those beings are masters, like how I mentioned before, the psyche. So kind of really, you have to be very, very experienced, kind of like my brother is, to be able to learn how to counteract those beings. And their specialty is knowing how to reach inside of you individually and being able to pull out fear itself outside of your body and shove it in your face, pretty much. So pretty much the element of fear inside of you, they brought that out in me. And I remember sitting in that inside of my vehicle while my brother was running the ceremony on me. And afterwards, I just remember looking at the building, and you see the street light and everything right there is just glowing on the building. And I was just like, fear kind of overtook me, and I was just like, man, I do not want to go back. I was like, I looked at my brother, I was just like, do we have enough footage? Like, can we dip out right now? You know?
Yep.
But he was just like, nope, you got to face him. You know, this is part of your training right here. You got to go back in there and look him straight in the eye and do what you need to do.
Yep.
I was like, oh, like I clenched my teeth, but you know, we had to go back in there, and we did.
Yeah,
that's the thing, is like it drew out how I saw my brother is it drew out the same fear I saw in him, because we grew up together. And so I remember him being a little kid, he would be scared to walk down a hallway in a particular house that we lived in when it was dark. And like you would try to like, come on, we got to go back, because our rooms were back there. Come on. Like it said, the electricity was out. We got to go back there. We're going to bed. And he's like, no, I'm not. I turn on the light. I don't want to go back there. That same type of fear as a little child, afraid of the dark. That same fear is brought back and kind of pulled out of us as adults, and feel the same thing with those beings again.
Yeah. So that right there was for the YMCA. So that was one of my humbling experiences that I went through, and I was just like, man, like these guys know their stuff, man. So
right.
Yeah. Hero, what about you?
Nothing on camera that I've experienced. Again, like I said, I've experienced a lot more things off camera, dealing with families and dealing with sacred sites and some of the ceremonies that we have done. Those are the true fear grabbing moments that I've had. But I guess a moment that you can look back into, if you were to look into our content, and a moment that scared me the most and made me fear, not necessarily for myself, but for my crew, for my members, my brothers, was the Old Washoe Club. If you were to look at that, it's our season 2 finale, Old Washoe Club. You see a member that's no longer here with us on this earth, Pataya. He passed away this past year in April, hence why we had to postpone our earlier mission, or our earlier podcast with you earlier in the year. But you see him in that episode get possessed. And I was told strict instructions to not intervene. This is just like how I said earlier, how my brother has to go out into the battlefield and see how he handles himself alone. This is another one of those training moments where one of my pupils had to be able to not only go through this possession, but get out of it for the most part himself. And it came to a point to where I just said enough was enough, and I did an exorcism on him. And that's actually the first time we've actually recorded one of the exorcism ceremonies I've done happen, and you see the interactions that happen during that exorcism, and we get him out of it. And that was by far one of the roughest trips we've gone on. I wouldn't say it solidified us not wanting to do it again, but it solidified us how we investigate, to where we're going to get hotel rooms. We're not going to sleep out of our vehicles. Right. We're going to actually get some rest. We're going to actually eat some solid food instead of hoofing it all the time.
That investigation, I'll tell you real quick, was one of the most physically exhausting trips that we've ever done. Like, we drove all night over there, immediately investigated all night again, and then I slept in the bed of my truck at a Maverick gas station. And then immediately right after, we went to go investigate the Washoe Club. And the same night at 4:00 in the morning, we went over to the Mark Twain building and we investigated until the sun came up. And then we drove right after that, immediately right after that investigation. We drove 14 hours back home.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was the roughest trip. But like with that is where you're at your weakest. You're tired, you're hungry, you're sore. Everything about you and your spirit, you're just drained and dead. And you go into a location like the Washoe Club, that's like hardcore, one of the most renowned locations ever. And you go
having dark entities.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you go against that. He's not here with us, but that was one of the most badass moments I've ever seen Pataya go through and fight through that. And even afterwards, we didn't even tell him. He just went right back in there again.
Oh, wow.
So
that's who he was, is that no matter
dedication.
Yeah.
He goes in. If you get affected by something, that's something I always tell these guys, whether it's spiritual or in person. If you get affected by something or someone that is your enemy and has claimed to stand up against you, even if it beats you down, you stand back up and you get back on that horse again, and you ride, you go to battle, you go and face it head on. That's something that I'm proud of each member of my crew can and has done.
Absolutely. You guys give me Ken Allen vibes of the investigation field. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's one badass guy. I absolutely admit it. And you guys have a badass team. I'm just saying.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
So, to close out our show tonight, Brandon, we've asked this on other shows before, but if you guys were gifted a trip to your dream investigation where money don't matter and the distance don't matter, where would you go?
Go first, Junklin.
I would love to go to the Japanese suicide forest.
Oh, yes.
Just because I want to go there, because how they view death, how they view suicide is a lot different than us on the Western side view suicide and death. So to be able to, I would love to go talk to some samurai spirits. I would love to go talk to some Oni and everything and be like, yo, like, can I buy a sword here and just ship it back to America for me?
Yeah.
And just I want to go to Japan too. I'm 6'5". I'm pretty sure I wouldn't fit in most places, but I would still love to go. Yeah. Japanese suicide forest, definitely.
Oh man, that would be a lot of fun.
For me, I have a huge bucket list of a lot of locations I would love to visit. Cost not an issue there. I'd say the number one location that I don't think there's been very many natives have gone to, and it's actually taboo for natives to go to, but for purposes of diplomatic relations on the spiritual side, and also my own genuine curiosity, I'd love to go to the tombs of Egypt.
Ooh.
I'd love to go over there and interact with those spirits and be like, hey, I'm indigenous from over the ocean. Here's who I am. Here's my story. And I'd like to hear their story and be like, we're very different and not supposed to be around according to our taboos, but I want to be able to hear their story and see what they have to say.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say when he first brought that to me, I got scared because I remember the mummy, those scarabs that go in the skin and everything. Oh god, I was just
Now, we talked about it on a previous show recently, but just picture this with me for a minute. Imagine all of the huntings in the pyramids of Egypt alone. Imagine how haunted each of those pyramids are.
They're giant tombs. They're giant cemeteries, pretty much.
You got all these mummified people. I do believe at some point was it in what was it? Egypt, beheading is actually legal, right?
I'm not too sure about that, but yeah, it's something you have to be careful of, as it not only is that whole area like a cemetery or it's a tomb, but you have spirits that have been disturbed by archaeology in the name of science that have disturbed their final resting places that was their places of worship. That was people's connection to the creator, connection to the spirit world, was locations like that. And for them to be disturbed and for them to be picked on and poked at, and something that where they thought they would achieve eternal rest, instead they're being disturbed. I'm sure they have something to say.
And plus, imagine too, imagine how, how like there's lane lines and everything like that. Imagine how much energy, just because it's so aligned with like the stars and everything, how pretty much how us indigenous people, whenever we run ceremony, everything that we do as far as for like our ceremony, our homes, how everything is conducted and built is in the same way astrologically as with the sun, the stars, the galaxy, and everything. Same with them. So imagine how much energy is getting poured into those pyramids and everything, as well as the surrounding areas, just because of that as well.
Yes, absolutely, man. Just the thought of it, there's so many like foreign countries that have some of the most amazing places. Like on other shows, we've talked about going to Alcatraz and doing an investigation. But the price to investigate alone turns my stomach. It is super expensive.
Yeah.
I forgot how much it was. I think it was like $32,000 just for an overnight.
Oh,
Wow.
jeez, man. That's crazy.
I forgot what it was, but we talked about it with Brian Laverty from ParaPost Network. And I think he said it was about $32,000 just to investigate Alcatraz.
Jeez. That's a lot. That's
Yeah,
a whole car.
I hope that goes to something that benefits like the museum or like keep honoring the people that lost their lives there, not just someone's pockets.
Right. Well, and then imagine this. What if you paid $32,000 out of pocket and didn't capture a single thing?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'd be so upset.
I would be like, if we're not capturing anything, we're gonna film a scary movie in one night, you guys.
Yep.
Make the best of it.
Something we're gonna use this doing something here.
I don't know whether we're gonna call it a low budget or a big budget movie, but
all right, we're gonna make some TikToks over here.
Yeah. Yep. But anyways, guys, you guys have been fantastic guests. Like I said before, Unearthing the Supernatural is a absolute awesome team. You guys have amazing stuff, and I'm sure you guys are putting out some pretty cool episodes coming up here soon. So there's only one way to find out what they're putting out, and that is to go and watch their channel. That is Unearthing the Supernatural on YouTube. Also catch them on Instagram, TikTok. What else did you say you got?
Facebook.
I forgot about the biggest one. But catch them on all their social medias and all their other stuff. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas. And I definitely would love to have you guys on the show again because this was a fun show.
Awesome. It was awesome. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We really love everyone interacting with us. We love all our fans. Share the Minnesota podcast, share us, everyone. We love all you guys. Thank you. Many blessings to everyone.
Absolutely. Well, if you guys ever want to come back on, you got some free time. We have an open podcast. We'll let you guys know if you want to come on. It's an open floor. So
sweet.
All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good night. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk in the future.
Merry Christmas.
So, all right. Bye, guys. All right. So that was Unearthing the Supernatural. They are an indigenous team who does some amazing investigations. So check out them on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that, and check out their amazing content, episodes, and all that they're putting out here soon. So, Brandon, are you familiar with the team or no?
Yeah, a little bit. I've seen a couple of their videos.
Okay. Well, I think it's absolutely awesome what they do. You know, they're truly knowledgeable people and helping a lot of people, making a difference in the field alone. So that's a great thing to see. It's great to see, you know, how much people can make a difference in the field. And, you know, I even think Minnesota Spear Hunters has made a difference in the field at some point or another. And if we haven't, I hope we make a difference one of these days. So and that's what it's all about. So I thank you guys so much for being an absolute amazing audience tonight. There's been some new faces here, and just to come over and support Minnesota Spirit Hunters and Unearthing the Supernatural. You guys are absolutely awesome. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of that. We have a brand new episode up on YouTube and a new one in production right now, and that will be out on January 31st. At 1:00 p.m. will be our brand new episode. But we do have a brand new 1 week old episode up on YouTube. So go check it out. Let us know what you think. Subscribe. Follow us. If you guys like this show and you want to be a part of the show, reach out to us and we will definitely set something up. So, Brandon, you got anything for them?
Nope.
Okay. Well, all we can really say is we hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. we won't see you until after Christmas. And actually, I believe we won't see you until the new year. No, actually, we got one more show this year. So we will see you guys in the last week of December. But hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and enjoy your holidays and all to come. Yeah, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So check us out next week. We have I completely forgot who our guest was, but I'm about to tell you right now. We have it is a open podcast night next week. For anybody who hasn't watched our open podcast yet, is an open door. Anybody can come on, be a part of the show. The subject next week is sleep paralysis. So if you have any knowledge or you know somebody who struggles with sleep paralysis, send them our way. We're going to talk about it, how you can cope with it, how you can, manage sleep paralysis, and much more. So that's next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. But until then, we'll see you guys after Christmas. So enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your night, and as always, guys, happy hunting.